Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The research vessel Perseverance glided silently through the expanse of space, its sleek form reflecting the soft blue glow of the distant Pandora star system. Dr. Ilara Quinn stood at the observation window, her thoughts a storm of anticipation and uncertainty. Pandora, a planet known for its enigmatic soul tree, was about to become the key to a breakthrough that could reshape humanity's future or doom them all. Ilara's reflection stared back at her, sharp green eyes that held years of sleepless nights, countless debates over ethics, and the lingering grief of loss. Her mentor, Dr. Malcolm Harris, a brilliant mind and the father of modern resurrection technology, had died 6 months ago. The pain of losing him still sat like a cold weight in her chest. But now, with Pandora's secrets within reach, she had the chance to bring him back and perhaps save Earth in the process. Approaching Pandora's atmosphere, the ship's automated voice interrupted her thoughts. Ilara glanced at the readouts. The expedition's goal was simple in its ambition: to tap into the soul tree's unique biological properties to resurrect Earth's greatest minds, the leaders and scientists who had been lost during the final conflict. Earth, scarred and fractured, needed those minds more than ever to rebuild a broken world. And it needed them fast. But Ilara had studied Pandora for years. She knew how little humanity understood the delicate balance of life on the planet, how its entire ecosystem seemed to revolve around the soul tree's mysterious energy. Some whispered that the tree held the souls of Pandora's long extinct inhabitants, others believed it to be a sentient being with its own will. Whatever the truth, it was undeniable that the soul tree was unlike anything known in the universe. Ilara's colleague, Dr. Mateo Vargas, joined her by the window, his face tight with nerves. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he said, gesturing to the planet slowly filling the view with its lush green forests, towering mountains, and strange, glowing rivers that snaked across the surface like veins. "Beautiful and dangerous," Ilara murmured. "We can't forget that. We're not here to admire the view. This planet is our only shot at reviving them, Ilara. You know what's at stake." She knew too well. The loss of Harris and others like him had left Earth without its brightest minds to guide the rebuilding. Humanity was teetering on the edge of collapse, and Ilara's mission to Pandora was their last hope. Landing protocol initiated, the voice of Captain Nirasato rang out. "Prepare for descent." The ship jolted as it pierced through the upper layers of Pandora's atmosphere. Ilara's hands clenched the railing, her heart racing as they descended. The dense canopy of Pandora's forest grew larger, and soon the ground was rushing up to meet them. The Perseverance landed with a soft thud on the moss-covered surface. Ilara and her team disembarked, the air thick with humidity and an odd, earthy scent. Towering above them, like a silent guardian, stood the soul tree. It was unlike anything they had imagined. Its roots stretched deep into the earth, twisting and curling like ancient veins, while its canopy seemed to shimmer with a faint, otherworldly glow. In the presence of the tree, Ilara felt small, insignificant, as though the planet itself was watching her every move. "Let's set up the equipment," Ilara said, her voice breaking the reverent silence that had settled over the team. They worked quickly, erecting sensors and biolinks that would connect their resurrection technology to the soul tree. Ilara monitored the data streaming in from the sensors, the readings that made no sense. Energy fluctuations surged and dabbed around the tree like a living pulse. The ground itself seemed to vibrate with life. "Readings are stable," Vargas called from his station. "We're ready for Phase 1. Ilara nodded, swallowing the knot of unease in her throat. Phase 1 was the test of the resurrection of Malcolm Harris, her mentor. If it worked, they would have proven the viability of the project, and Earth's leaders would soon follow. The team gathered around the soul tree as Ilara activated the biolink, her hands shaking ever so slightly. A thin, shimmering thread of light emerged from the tree, coiling gently around the resurrection chamber where Harris's preserved body lay. The air around them hummed with an almost tangible energy. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, With a jolt, the process began. Alar's breath caught as the chamber lit up, its glass surface frosted over from the intense cold. The readings spiked, and the energy from the soul tree poured into the chamber like a waterfall of light. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Alara couldn't tear her eyes away from the body within. The resurrection process was delicate, the biolinks fragile. Any misstep could result in failure or worse. Finally, the chamber's lights dimmed, and the humming ceased. The team stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the chamber. The glass slid open with a hiss of air, and there, lying still but unmistakably alive, was Dr. Malcolm Harris. Alara Brokenbar Vargas whispered, disbelief coloring his voice. Alara stepped forward, her legs shaky. She placed a hand on the chamber's edge, her gaze fixed on Harris's face. Slowly, his eyes fluttered open. Malcolm, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Harris blinked, his gaze unfocused at first, then slowly sharpening. He turned his head, his eyes locking onto hers. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Alara? His voice was hoarse, barely recognizable, but it was him. It was Malcolm Harris. The team erupted in cheers, but Alara barely heard them. Her heart pounded in her chest as Harris sat up, his movements slow, tentative, like someone waking from a long, deep sleep. "Yeah, broken bar, I feel strange," Harris said, his brow furrowing. He looked around, confusion etched on his face. "Weary broken bar, where am I?" "You're on Pandora," Alara said, stepping closer. "We broken bar, we brought you back, Malcolm. We used the soul tree." Harris's gaze flicked to the towering tree, and a shiver ran through him. "The soul tree, a broken bar," he murmured, his voice distant, as though he was remembering something. "Yeah, broken bar, I can feel it." "It's a broken bar, it's inside me." Alara exchanged a worried glance with Vargas. The process was supposed to restore Harris's body and consciousness, but there had been no indication that he would feel any connection to the soul tree itself. "Take it slow," Alara said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You've been through a lot. We'll monitor your recovery closely." Harris nodded, but his eyes never left the soul tree. "I can hear it," he whispered. "It's a broken bar speaking to me." Alara's stomach clenched. She had read reports of Pandora's flora and fauna displaying unusual behaviors, but this was something different. The soul tree's energy was supposed to be a passive force, not something that could communicate. But before she could ask him more, a loud crash echoed through the forest, followed by the unmistakable roar of an alien creature. "Pandora's ecosystem is reacting," Vargas muttered. "We might have triggered something." Alara's heart raced. They had resurrected Harris, but at what cost? The roar sent a chill down Alara's spine. Her gaze started toward the tree line, where dense foliage shifted ominously. Whatever was out there, it wasn't just reacting to their presence, it was enraged. Pandora had always been a living, breathing world, but this was something else, something primal, defensive, and deeply connected to the soul tree. Harris's hand trembled as he clutched the side of the chamber. "It's coming," he said softly, his voice thick with apprehension. Alara stepped back, her mind racing. "Everyone, back to the ship," she ordered, her voice steady but urgent. The rest of the team, who had been celebrating moments before, scrambled into action. Vargas grabbed Harris, helping him stand, while Alara ensured the biolinks to the soul tree were deactivated. The ground vibrated as the creature approached. Massive footsteps thundered through the forest, sending tremors up Alara's legs. She glanced at Harris, whose face had grown pale, his eyes fixed on the soul tree, as if he were trying to decode some hidden message. "We need to go, Malcolm," she urged. But Harris didn't move. "No, wait," he said, shaking off Vargas's grip. "It's not an attack. It's a broken bar. It's trying to warn us." Vargas shot Alara a confused look, but she knew better than to dismiss Harris's instincts. "Warn us about what?" Before he could answer, the creature burst through the tree line. It was enormous, towering over the Perseverance, its body a blend of shimmering scales and bioluminescent tendrils. Its eyes glowed an eerie green, locked directly onto the team. Alara froze, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. It was like nothing she had ever encountered in her studies of Pandora's wildlife. This was no ordinary predator, it was an ancient guardian, awakened by their intrusion. Harris stepped forward, ignoring the team's protests. His posture was calm, his eyes distant, as if he were communing with the creature. "We've disturbed the balance," he said, his voice low and filled with a strange reverence. "The tree a broken bar, it knows we're taking too much." Alara's breath caught in her throat. She had feared this, but they had pushed forward anyway. Now the planet was fighting back. The creature bared its fangs, but it didn't attack. Instead, it circled the team, its massive body coiling like a snake ready to strike. Alara could feel the tension in the air, thick and palpable. "Malcolm, we need to leave," she insisted. "This thing could kill us all." Harris didn't budge. "No, Alara. We've gone too far already. If we leave now, the damage will be irreversible. We need to stop the process. We need to return what we've taken." Vargas's face tightened with frustration. "Return what we've taken? We came here to save Earth. We can't just stop now." Alara felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Vargas was right. Their mission was to save humanity, to bring back the minds that could rebuild Earth. But Harris was also right. They had disturbed something far greater than they understood, and the consequences were already unfolding. Harris turned to face her, his expression solemn. "The soul tree a broken bar, it's alive, Alara, more alive than we ever realized. Every soul we take weakens it. We're draining Pandora's life force. If we keep going, the planet won't survive." The enormity of his words sank in. Alara had always known there were risks, but she had never imagined they would be this catastrophic. If Pandora died, they would be responsible for the destruction of an entire world. And Earth, even with its resurrected elites, would be no better for it. "We have to reverse the process," Harris continued. "We have to return the souls. If we don't, this creature Pandora itself will wipe us out." Alara's mind raced. They had the technology to stop the resurrection, but would Earth's leaders accept it? Could they sacrifice the chance to restore their greatest minds in favor of saving a planet light years away? The choice felt impossible. Vargas's voice cut through her thoughts. "You can't be serious. You want to throw away everything we've worked for? Everything Earth needs? Alara, if we stop now, humanity may never recover." Alara clenched her fists. She understood his frustration, a part of her shared it. But she couldn't shake the truth of Harris's words. Pandora was more than just a resource to exploit. It was a living, breathing entity, and they had pushed it to the brink. The creature, still circling them, let out a low, rumbling growl. Its luminous tendrils swayed gently, as if it was waiting for their decision. Alara took a deep breath and made her choice. "We stop the resurrection." Vargas stared at her in disbelief. "What?" "Harris is right. We're killing Pandora. If we keep going, there won't be anything left to here or on Earth. We reverse the process and return the souls to the tree." Vargas opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, the ground beneath them rumbled. The soul tree's roots twisted and coiled, rising from the earth like serpents. The creature let out a deafening roar, its body glowing brighter as it responded to the tree's energy. "We're out of time," Harris said urgently. "The tree is trying to defend itself." Alara ran to the console, her hands shaking as she input the commands to reverse the resurrection process. She could feel the planet's energy surging, like a tidal wave building beneath the surface, ready to crash down and consume them all. "Malcolm, get ready," she called out. "This is going to be rough." Harris nodded, standing by the resurrection chamber as Alara initiated the reversal. The chamber lit up once more, the same shimmering thread of light connecting it to the soul tree. But this time, instead of drawing energy from the tree, the light began to recede, flowing back into the roots like water returning to the sea. The creature's roar filled the air again, but this time it wasn't a threat, it was relief. The tendrils around its body relaxed, and its massive form began to retreat into the forest. Pandora was accepting their offer. The souls were being returned. Alara watched in awe as the tree's glow intensified, its roots sinking back into the earth. Harris's body shuddered, his eyes closing as the energy left him. For a moment, Alara feared he wouldn't survive the process, but then his breathing steadied, and the tension in his face ceased. "It's done," he whispered. The team stood in stunned silence, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. They had come to Pandora seeking salvation for Earth, but instead, they had been forced to confront the fragile balance of life and death on a scale far beyond their comprehension. Alara turned to Vargas, whose face was a mix of anger and disbelief. "We had no choice," she said softly. "Pandora would have died. We would have killed an entire planet." Vargas didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the soul tree, now glowing faintly in the distance, its energy slowly returning to equilibrium. He knew she was right, even if he didn't want to admit it. "We need to go," Alara said, her voice hoarse. "Earth may not get what it wanted, but at least we won't be responsible for destroying Pandora." Harris, still pale and weak, managed a nod. "Earth will find another way. It always does." They gathered their equipment in silence, the weight of their decisions heavy on their shoulders. As they made their way back to the ship, Alara couldn't help but glance over her shoulder at the soul tree one last time. It stood tall, its roots once again buried deep within the earth, its glow a reminder of the power and fragility of life. As they boarded the Perseverance, the hum of the engines filled the air, and the ship lifted off the ground. Pandora's lush, vibrant landscape spread out beneath them, beautiful and untouched for now. Alara sank into her seat, exhaustion washing over her. They had saved Pandora, but at what cost? Earth was still fractured, still in need of the minds they had hoped to revive. But perhaps this experience would teach humanity a valuable lesson. There were some things that even resurrection couldn't fix, some balances that shouldn't be disturbed. As the ship entered orbit and Pandora grew smaller in the distance, Alara closed her eyes, letting the hum of the engines lull her into a fitful sleep. The weight of the mission, the loss, the sacrifice, it would follow her for the rest of her life. But for now, there was peace. Peace for Pandora. Peace for the souls they had returned. And maybe, one day, peace for Earth.